Free. All right, folks. Today I've got Lauren Dunning from the Millikan Institute, and I am thrilled to be talking about a report that you've done on one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, and that's intergenerational connections. How can we transcend age-based divides? Lauren, before we dive into this report, let's get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thanks so much. I'm at the Milken Institute, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank focused on accelerating measurable progress on the path to a meaningful life. And within the Milken Institute, I am with the future of aging, and we work to advance healthy longevity, financial security for all through research convenings, multi-sector partnerships, and the elevation of high-impact policies and practices. And I can get a bit deeper on some of the how and the why of how we work at the Milken Institute, but today we're talking about intergenerational connection. And I have a lot of reasons in our work why this is really important and why intergenerational solutions provide pathways with benefits for everyone in society. But I wanted to start just with noting that intergenerational connections are good for us. Intergenerational friendships are special. And there's a lot of data on this, and we can talk about it, but I just wanted to talk for a minute because part of my inspiration on this is personal. I'm a passionate community gardener. And I have been gardening for over a decade with my gardening partner who just turned 98 this past year.
I
And
love it.
it's been an incredible and special experience to build that relationship. And I don't think when we started, if you just said, do you want a, you know, older adult best friend, I mean, I'm embarrassed to admit, but I was potentially open-minded. But in my mind, I was like, well, somebody I need to help and they're going to rely on me. And I don't know if I have that kind of time. And you know what? The experience has proved me dead wrong, right? There's benefits on both sides. It has been so meaningful, so insightful to be able to learn from somebody with such wisdom that is willing to connect and has time. And it's grown me in ways and them in ways that we didn't know. And just having that front door through gardening, right? A shared experience, created something that absolutely had no way to exist otherwise, that created benefits for both people because I have learned so much and had so much support, not only about gardening, but about family and crafting a career and having, the wisdom and to be able to navigate different life challenges. And then I've shared that too. I've been able to move a lot of rocks and lumber over the past couple of years as things have changed. But I'm connected, I'm invested, I'm there, right? I'm a phone call, I'm support. And I think that it's really important that in society we have opportunities for people to connect and connect across generations and get to know different people. And right, we need those external public
Yeah.
spaces where you can meet people different from you.
I love it. And I love your story. And in telling it, you addressed one of the many benefits of connecting the generation. And you had an age bias prior to this
Did.
friendship. I think that intergenerational connections, it helps us eliminate ageism because
Yes.
people begin to understand that, oh, what this person is just like me. Why am I
Yes.
looking at this chronological age, just like the color of someone's skin or their gender, as
Yes.
thinking that somebody is different? And then it helps minimize the horrible issue of I, loneliness and isolation. There's affordability aspects where when we connect the generations, we save people money. I love it, and I love the fact that your organization, this thought leader think tank, has invested in studying this and launching this report. Tell us a little bit about the report, the who, what,
Yes.
and why.
Absolutely. So First, Transcending Age-Based Divides, the case for scaling intergenerational solutions. You can find it on our website, milkeninstitute.org. It's available there, and it helps us understand the thread of intergenerational connection that flows through all kinds of things in our life, right? Health, work, finance. These are intergenerational issues, whether we know it or not, that connect the generations, run through the generations, and can bring us together potentially. And so, why did we undertake this report? Well, first, by 2030, the percentages of adults age 65 and older and children under age 18 will be roughly the same. By the way, that's in 5 years, right? So, thinking about that, wow, we have a society that has equal numbers of older and younger people. And with that, our society is more age diverse than it has ever been, right? Because intergenerational, many people picture older adults and children, right? That's kind of the archetype. But we're talking about different people across different generations. I was just talking about, person in middle age connecting or early middle age and then later in middle age connecting with an a older adult and then almost a centenarian, right? So centenarian. But yeah, so there's different perceptions and we wanted to share in a structured way, not just that this is a wonderful feel good thing, but that there's power in intergenerational connection and opportunity to, as we discuss, counter ageist stereotypes, to identify shared values, and to mobilize generations as community intergenerational resources. And we found that there's 6 specific areas where there's a lot of action and opportunity. The first is addressing the epidemic of social isolation and loneliness. The second is strengthening education outcomes through volunteerism. The third is engaging employers and the multi-generational workforce. The fourth, to just keep signposting, is leveraging creative and cultural arts. The fifth is enhancing housing options. And the sixth is about mobilizing political engagement and public service. So we have these 6 areas where bringing people together has benefits beyond just for the people themselves. There's positive externalities for the community. And these insights were informed and generated and supported by the work that we do at the Milken Institute around convening. We've had a series of panels that you can see on our website that focused on intergenerational issues and solutions. And then we had a convening that brought together members of our advisory board as well as other experts in this space to have a conversation about how do we make collaboration that brings us more intergenerational connection. How do we get people to invest in intergenerational solutions and how to get this to be a priority area for action in the midst of all the other priority areas we have in our midst right now?
Well, see, like, and I know we've got lots of priorities, and one of the things that I like to tell folks when we talk about this topic, this is not that difficult. It's kind of like everything that we do, think about including all age ranges. And when we are specifically doing something that might be accidentally or intentionally age segregated, is this just opening up a dialogue and saying, hey, we can include more people, whether it be young people, old people, or in between. And it's really very easy, but we're not used to it. We are in more parts of our society age segregated than we think we are. And
Yes.
so, no, I think this report highlights some of that. Now, just like all the conversations I have with you, Lauren, we could talk for 5 hours on this
Yeah.
topic, but um, and I hope that I'm not. I'm going to pick one of the areas that you brought up, and that was housing,
Yes.
because um, and we can maybe riff on that for a
Yeah.
little bit. Is that one of the things that I have sort of immersed myself in since I got into my career was this age segregated housing. We only have one legally segregated segment in housing, and that is we can build homes for people, and young people are not allowed to live in these homes. And this is what I'm referring to is senior housing.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why our parents, our loved ones don't want to move to these age segregated housing options, and and they'll make a statement like, I don't want to move to a place with a bunch of old people, and then mom or dad, but you're old. And what I am constantly pointing out to people is like, no, mom or dad, they know that they're older than some people, okay? And they know that this community has a lot of old people living in it. But right now, they're living on a street with black, white, young, old, married, single, straight, gay,
Mhm.
divorced, um, and you're telling them they got to go to the segregated housing thing.
Yep.
Were there any insights on this vertical that I'm talking about that in your report?
Yeah, so there's so many important things to talk about here, right? Because we know that for most people, the affordability of senior housing is out of reach. And so it's really important that we consider what it's like to age at home and in community, because that's what is happening to people. And it's also what most people would like, right? Given that between 75 and 95% of people report that that's their goal. Now, people experience barriers to being able to age at home in terms of care, right? Often moving to an age segregated community is based on need for care or right need for safety because people feel that they might have reached a different life stage. Now, there's some exciting stuff going on in technology, right, that supports our ability to continue aging at home and that's on the horizon. But there's also some really exciting stuff structurally in housing. So we can think about one, how we know there's just structural parts of housing that support us being able to age at home, thinking about universal design, thinking about what communities look like, but then thinking about how do we make new options for people. So one of the things we highlight in the report is that senior housing is changing, right? For example, we know that college campuses are more and more often starting to bring in housing options that enable older adults to live there. And some of these communities there's different flavors of it, right? So there's communities that are focused on engaging in the educational atmosphere, right? So people want to take classes, they want to live on campus, and they have the opportunity to do so. Others are right about people having the experience and then also mixing the age ranges. There's housing at different places that enables younger people to live with older people. And so we're seeing this crop up all over the country in many different ways, including as ways that colleges that are experiencing declining enrollment due to demographic change are looking towards new ways to exist because they are really important ways that people come together, education, cultural, right? They serve really important needs in communities and they create community. So that's one of the things we noticed. We also looked at some specific efforts that are focused on making affordable housing for families that are very intergenerational. So we looked at examples in Oregon and Washington, D.C. of um, affordable housing that is specifically either for grand families or leverages the care and wisdom that older adults are willing to give to support foster kids.
I
So
love,
we've
yeah.
seen some great models, right? And we just want to see them scale and spread and offer different opportunities. And then on senior housing, we're also seeing different models crop up that might change people's perceptions, right? We're getting more senior housing that is either A, moving out into community, so thinking about decentralized, right? So living in existing community, but still being able to benefit from the services and support people might need. So we're seeing that. We're seeing people that are taking housing that's standard unit housing apartments and essentially taking a piece of it, but leaving other parts intact and providing senior housing, but with a la carte services there. So people are living in intergenerational communities that are, right, serving families and people of different ages. But then the units that are being supported by these companies are offering different services that enable people to age in community. So we're getting innovation. Right? We are. We just want more of it, but we're hearing from those older adults that we want options because that's what that's what they're saying to the industry. That's what the industry is hearing. I was excited this spring because I was at the NIC, the National Investment Centers for Seniors Housing and Care, about a conversation that took place on stage there between the founder, Bob Kramer, and Joe Coughlin from MIT Age Lab, talking about right? How does senior housing respond to the wants, needs, and desires of this next generation of older adults who really do want community? They want intergenerational, they want different opportunities because they see the possibilities. So we see this intergenerational housing piece as something that's critical to breaking those age silos and creating this range of options that support people with access and functional needs to continue living in those communities that provide them the relationships, the informal support, the connection, the things you care and love, right? My
Hmm.
community garden is an example, right? Older adults that are critical. Their phones ring off the hook about because we need somebody to make the compost and drive the tractor, and they're enabling this amazing place to continue, right, for the benefit of everyone. So there's so many opportunities like that in community, and we need older adults to be able to stay there if they want to and need to.
I love it. Um, this is amazing. You're totally speaking my language. I mean, my people ask what would I like to see in our segment, and I would like just like black and white drinking fountains that someday in the future, remember we had those communities that took care of older adults. It's like, gosh, that was weird, and because it's more woven into the fabric of our neighborhoods and our communities. It would be awesome. Might be a little bit blue sky there, but okay.
I'll
Uh,
adjust your vision that people have the options and ability to live in the types of communities that
if they want to, yeah,
are serving their needs. And so in many cases, people might need a level of care that, we still need those places where people might need a high level of care, but that's not about age. That's
it's
about
about
stage.
it's about the state. Yeah, it's about
Yep.
because yeah, the a young
Yeah.
person that was in an accident or might
Yes.
have a new diagnosis uh,
Yes.
could be cared
Yeah.
for or
Exactly.
living as opposed to
Yeah.
cared
No,
for,
but it's about stage and
living
it's
in the
about
same neighborhood.
support and it's no
Yeah,
longer about age. So I
I
don't even
love
need to
that.
adjust your vision. I'm just going
No,
to
no,
offer that we have
no.
places to care for people. It's just not going to be age based.
I like it. I like that helped me. And the next time I say that, I'm going to say it. I'm going to give you credit on that one. Well, okay. This report is great, folks, and you can get it on the Milken Institute website, which we're going to have links to. But tell me, anything that we haven't talked about or any sort of conclusions that we might want to be thinking about based
Yeah.
on the information in this report.
Absolutely. If there's one thing I might touch on as we're wrapping up is social isolation and loneliness. That's one of the areas that we brought up as being incredibly important around intergenerational solutions. We know that bringing people of different generations together can address isolation and loneliness, but often people picture that it's supporting older adults. But I think people will be surprised to find something, which is that young people are disproportionately afflicted by loneliness. The 2023 Gallup poll of, you know, older adults and young people worldwide found that the rates of loneliness were highest in young adults, with 27% of young adults 19 to 29 feeling very lonely or fairly lonely. The lowest rates are in older adults. Only 17% of people aged 65 and older reported feeling the same types of loneliness. And so that's already breaking sort of a stigma or a bias or a stereotype about who is lonely or who is happy. And so these relationships can support that and address loneliness, but they also can address that objective social isolation, which is more prominent among older adults. And social isolation is different than loneliness because social isolation is objectively having few social relationships and infrequent social interaction. And that is associated with worse health outcomes. Um, while loneliness is a state of perceived isolation or inadequate social connection, that hunger and desire for more social connection. And through intergenerational connections, we can impact both, and depending on the flavor of the type of intergenerational connection, you can have great outcomes for younger people if we're talking about through mentoring and support in workforce or education or different areas, and there's great data on that. And you can have great outcomes on relationship building. There's different tech-based tools that are actually work having great results pairing younger people and older people together and finding they have persistent relationships. That one's called Eldera. But I think the main thing I want to leave folks with is that nearly 8 out of 10 adults want to spend more time with people outside their age group, right? The age bias goes both ways, and we want to break those, silos, and people are hungry for it. So get out there, find, different resources in your communities. You'd mentioned, I think there's one that you talked about, and remind me of the name so I can go check it out myself. But there's things out there, and people really, let's build it if you don't see it already.
I love it. I love it. And actually, going back to your original story, one of the coolest ways to connect with generation is through shared interest.
Yes.
Whether it be gardening or cycling or bird watching, it's here's where the the age, the the background goes to the below the surface because hey, we're building a garden together and we're friends. And then you wake up one morning, it's like, wow, my best friend is 95,
Yes. Yep.
so the and but that's an afterthought. It's like my best friend lives in the town next to me. So anyways,
Yes.
as always, Lauren, this is absolutely amazing. Keep up the good work with your organization. I can't wait to spotlight some of the other reports that you have coming down the road. And folks, we'll drop the website in so you can get this report and the others.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I think we talked about it's stage, not age, and now we just ended with interest, not age, right?
Yeah,
How to help
yeah,
people have
absolutely.
shared interest. I love it. So that's a
I love
great,
it.
great thought to leave folks with, and thank you again for having me.
Thanks a lot, Lauren.